Let me start with a question. Have you ever been like right there and completely miss it? Someone calls your name and you don't hear them. You walk right past someone that you've known for years and still never see them. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a store and I can be looking directly at you and know you and still not see you because, I'm in my head, right? And I do this more than I care to admit. And I pray that I'm not the only one that this scenario has happened to. But, I the other day, not too long ago, I was looking for my phone. Couldn't find my phone. I hope, again, you relate to this. And so I begin looking all throughout my house. I mean, I am in every room, kitchen and bathrooms and bedrooms and family room and in between couch cushions. And I go out to the car and I'm underneath the seats and I'm dumping my purse out. And I mean, I am looking everywhere for my phone. Hey, my kid, have you seen my phone? And my dog, have you seen my phone? Haley, where is my phone? Cannot find my phone. Only to discover I bet you're thinking it was in my back pocket. No, no, it was not in any of my pockets. It was in my hand. And I looked down and I remember thinking, well, how long has that been going on? Right? How long has that been going on? It was in my hand. It was right there. And I didn't see it. It's been there the whole time. And I missed it. And my question for all of us today is how many times do we just miss it? How many holy moments do we walk past and we just miss it? We don't even see it. It's not there. We walk past it. And here's the tension that I want us to sit with today. How often are we walking with Jesus and we don't even recognize him? How often are we walking with Jesus and we do not see him? Well, that's exactly what's happening today in our story. It is Easter afternoon. Easter afternoon, and the tomb is empty. And for these two disciples from our text today, these two disciples, all hope is gone. They are now walking away from Jerusalem. They are walking away from the place where everything fell apart. They are walking away from what they thought their future would be. Because from where they stand today, the worst thing is the last thing. And before we go any further, I want to state this really clearly. This isn't just their story, these two disciples. No, this is so much our story as well. We are the ones. I want you to picture yourself as one walking on this road today. We are definitely in this story, trying to figure out and get a sense of life and carrying disappointments and wondering where God is. And then Jesus shows up. And that's what I love about resurrection. It is not just a moment, it is a movement. Jesus just keeps showing up. And in today, what we see is Jesus keeps showing up in ordinary encounters. Luke 24, verses 15 through 16, hear these words. It says, while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. So while the two disciples, remember it's now Easter afternoon and they are heading back. They have left the empty tomb and they are now heading back home. And as they're walking, they're talking and they're discussing things. They're discussing what has just occurred. And Jesus himself comes near to them. And he walks beside them and he engages with them, but they don't see them. The text says their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Why? Well, it's not because he was absent, not because Jesus is in hiding. They don't see him because they're not expecting him. It is like every other encounter that we have with people. We see them and we walk right by them. We don't actually see them because we're not expecting them. They weren't expecting Jesus, and they didn't see him. And we have truly conditioned ourselves so often. We condition ourselves to not see Jesus. Our ordinary days, as we are moving from point A to point B, all of that in between, we expect nothing to happen between A and B. And so we don't see him. We don't recognize him. We've conditioned ourselves that there's nothing to see here. There's nothing holy here. There's nothing that's happening here. And we miss him all the time. And that's where this story intersects with our lives. We often miss what God is doing because it doesn't look like what we expected. We often miss the resurrected Lord because we forget to consider that Jesus is right in front of us. They expected a conquering Messiah, and they got a crucified Savior. They expected victory that made sense for them, and instead they got a story that felt like great loss. And when reality doesn't match expectation, we stop looking. Nothing to see here. Nothing holy here. Nothing happening here. I'm just moving from point A to point B. And this is what they said as they're making their way, and they're making their way across this path, and they're walking from A to B, and they're having this discussion, and this is what they share with this stranger that approached them. Verse 21, it says, "We had hoped that he was the one." That's what they share with the stranger. What are you guys talking about? What's got you so glum? Well, we had hoped he was the one. And that phrase carries so much weight. We had hoped. And if we're honest, that's just not their sentence. That is our sentence. We had hoped. I've had moments like this. I had hoped it would work out this way. I had hoped. I was so sure that something was going to come of this. I was so certain that this is the way it was going to work out. Moments in life, moments in ministry where I prayed and prayed and prayed and read, and everything I was feeling was pointing me this way, only to have it happen this way. If I'm honest, in those moments, I cried out, God, where are you in this? God, how did you not direct me differently? Or God, how did I miss this? Are you even with me? Are you even here? Are you moving? Are you active? God is absent oftentimes in those, I had hoped it would work this way. Maybe you've had I had hoped moment. Where in your life are you quietly saying, man, I had hoped? What expectations might keep you from seeing God active in what God is doing in your life? What if? What if God is walking with you and you just don't recognize him yet? What if God is walking with you and you just dismiss it as nothing? It's just a stranger coming upon me and I'm engaging him in the story, but I'm going to look right past him. Nothing to see here. Jesus walks with them. And I love this because I really see this as a story wrapped with grace, because Jesus is walking with them and he doesn't force recognition for them. He doesn't shame their doubts. He doesn't say, how could you not know it was me? No, he doesn't say any of that. He meets them right where they are. And this matters. Jesus doesn't force him on us. He waits to be invited. Before they ever recognized him, though, before they knew, he's still a stranger, but yet still Jesus is already with them. Jesus continues to be with them. Before they understand, Jesus is guiding them. Before their faith is steady, his presence is steady. I mean, I call that prevenient grace, right? That's what we call that here. Prevenient grace, God's grace going out ahead of us, God going out before us. Jesus is just walking with them, not shaming them, just waiting to be invited. And so they arrive at Emmaus. So they're making their way from point A to point B, and point B is Emmaus. And at verse 28, it says, as they came near the village, he, being Jesus, walked ahead as if he were going on. And so they arrive at Emmaus, and the two disciples stop, but then Jesus acts as if he is going on. And they say something so small, but yet so significant. Verse 29, the disciples, they urged him strongly, saying, stay with us. Stay with us. What would it look like for you to invite Jesus in? Even before you understand what he is doing, where do you need to say, stay with me? Stay with me, instead of walking away. They still don't recognize the stranger, but they invite him in anyway. And here's the turning point. You may not recognize him, but you can still invite him in. You might not understand, but you can still invite him in. You might not see him clearly, but you can still invite him in. You might not know what God is up to, but you can still invite him in. What if resurrected life doesn't show up in these big dramatic ways, but in ordinary encounters? The places that we walk past every day. Her name is Amy Bratell. She had worked in human resources for a number of years and also is a photographer. And in her early 40s, Amy experienced personal struggles that took her to a very low point in her life. And it was at this point that she decided she picked up a Bible for the very first time. And she began to engage in the scriptures and in the word. And it was in this time, as she begins to read the scriptures for the very first time, that she begins to see the world differently. She begins to see images around her differently. And all of a sudden, Jesus starts showing up in her every day. And she begins to describe them as she begins to see everyday crosses wherever she goes. And these unformed symbols were her spiritual nudge to keep going. And so with her phone in hand and her notes app, she began taking pictures of all of these images and writing about these everyday crosses. And she turned it into this book. But it was her non-traditional path to faith, and it transformed her life. Here are some of her images. The first picture, these were steps. This is red brick path, and she had walked these steps every single day for 4 years. Every day she crossed this path, never noticing anything, but for 4 years, every single day walked across these bricks. And then one day, she saw Jesus right underneath her feet. And next to the picture, this is what she wrote. She said, do you ever wonder what you're missing, not seeing, or overlooking? Things right in front of you? I do. Right. Christ lighting her path, right? Another picture, this is of a Shell station, and it's off the interstate, and she thought she was stopping for gas, but yet found this abandoned gas station. It was broken glass and garbage and debris, and she pulled in to turn her car around and get back on the highway, and then she saw it hidden in the back. And she wrote, God, you are so crazy good. You show up in the discarded, forgotten, dirty, shattered, and left behind. Your presence is all around. Driving to meet a friend, and she's excited to spend some time with her, and she's thinking about some big life decisions that she's making and life goals and future, and she's wrestling with all of this and how she's going to share this and what she's going to share and if she's going to be able to do this. And then she looks up and she sees across the sky Jesus pointing the way, telling her to keep going. There's just a few other images. This shadow cross as she's making her way in a building to go do a presentation, and this cross shows up on the floor in the form of a shadow. The highway pole cross that she drives by, apartment building that she walks across filled with crosses. Ordinary encounters. Jesus was walking along her path all along, and then suddenly she saw him. And I wonder how many moments we've missed, not because Jesus wasn't there, but because we didn't slow down. We didn't open the door. We didn't invite him in. Some of us are waiting for certainty, waiting for clarity, waiting until our faith feels strong enough. But in this story, clarity didn't come before the invitation. Clarity came after the invitation. The disciples invited the stranger in and said, "Stay with us." And so he stayed. So Jesus stayed, and they went into the house and they gathered, and then they sat down at a table. And it says at verse 30, when he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. And then suddenly, at verse 31, it says, suddenly their eyes were opened and they recognized him. It was in that moment, not on the road, not in the explanation, but in the breaking of bread. Because they'd seen this before the cross, in the upper room. They had seen Jesus do this. He broke bread. And remember, he said, "This is my body given for you." Verse 20, "This is the cup that is poured out for you in the new covenant in my blood." In that moment, it clicks. It's him. He's been with us all along, from point A to point B. He was with us the entire time. And it is in that moment, at verse 31, it says, he vanished from their sight. Now, I pause after this because really, Jesus, you couldn't have spent a little bit of time. I know, I really wanted to tell you along the way. I was hoping you guys would notice a few things about me, but that's not what happens. It says, verse 31, he vanished from their sight. Because now they know. They know he's there. They know he's been there. He was there, and he will continue to be there, right? He's not going to leave. And this was their response at verse 32. It says, were not our hearts burning within us? How did we not know? Have you had that moment? How did we miss this? How did we not see them? How did we not understand the situation? How did we not see this was going to happen? Didn't our hearts tell us something? Wasn't there something burning within us? How did we miss this? So here's what they do next. They get up and they go back. They go back because when you recognize Jesus, and you recognize and you understand that Jesus has been with you all along, you don't stay the same. No. They had a story to tell. They had a new outlook. So here's the question. Where might you be missing Jesus right now? Where in your life have you already decided, oh, God's not in this? God's not a part of this relationship. God's not in this conversation. God's not in this place of employment. What have you labeled as ordinary that might actually be holy? And what would it look like for you to start paying attention? Maybe it's in your circumstances. Maybe it's in your waiting. Maybe it's in your disappointment. Maybe it's in something simple, a conversation, a moment, a table. Where are you missing the holy moments with Christ? Have you invited him in? Stay with us. And what if the invitation today is simple, not to have everything figured out, not to suddenly feel that your faith is strong, but to simply say, stay with me, Lord. Stay with me. I don't understand it. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't see where you're at. I don't even know that you are aware of this situation, but I'm going to trust that you're here. Stay with me. Stay with us looks something simple like making space for a conversation, opening your life a little wider, not rushing past someone or something that you would normally overlook. Because don't just look for Jesus, make room for him. Notice. Invite him in. Because here's the promise of this story. Jesus shows up. Jesus is there. Jesus remains, whether you recognize him or not. Jesus stays even when you don't see him clearly. And Jesus will reveal himself in those ordinary moments. Verse 34, the Lord has risen indeed. And when you begin to see him in the ordinary encounters, you'll realize he has been walking with you the whole time. And that means the worst thing is never the last thing. The worst thing is never the last thing, right? This week, look for one ordinary encounter. Ask God, God, are you in this? And then pay attention to what you normally overlook, because that might be exactly where Jesus is. And when you begin to see him, remember, he's been here the whole time. The whole time. So maybe this week it won't be loud. It won't be obvious. It might look like a conversation you didn't plan, a moment you almost rushed past, or something you normally would call just another day. And it might not feel like anything in the moment until later when you look back and you realize, oh, my heart was doing something. I just didn't understand. The Lord has risen indeed and is still walking with you. Jesus is most often found in the moments we're most likely to overlook. Won't you pray with me? God, you are with us even when we don't recognize you. You are walking beside us in the ordinary moments of our lives. Forgive us for the times we've missed you, when your presence didn't look the way we expected. Oh, Lord, open our eyes and help us to see the holy in what you or we've called ordinary, Lord. Give us courage to say, stay with me, even when there's no understanding. Meet us, Lord, in the simple and the sacred moments, and awaken us. Awaken in us the awareness that you've been with us all along. And so help us, Lord, to pay attention and recognize you in all of our ordinary. In the name of the risen Christ. Amen.